Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. We got guys an update on a significant hurricane threat for the southeastern United States. We have future Hurricane Imelda that is expected to make a turn towards the southeastern United States over the next couple of days. I've got all the details coming right up. Right, so if you have joined me here on this Thursday evening, we have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be going over all the latest information on this big uptick in activity across the tropics. We have two named storms that we are going to be watching over the next couple of days, and one in which could looks like it could go towards the southeastern United States, potentially making landfall as a hurricane. So we're going to get you guys covered on all of that in today's update. But we're going to start it here, as always, by taking a look at your current satellite. And you can see we have two things going on. One, we do have Tropical Storm Humberto, which is currently spinning out here in the tropical Atlantic. We'll take a bigger look at what's going on with his satellite loop in a couple of minutes. But he's out there once again, popping off some pretty good convection in the tropical Atlantic, and off to its west we have Invest 94L over here, which is expected to become Tropical Storm Imelda, which will eventually likely form into Hurricane Imelda over the next couple of days, and that's what model guidance has really been pointing towards. So that's going to be the main part of today's update, is really how strong is Imelda going to get and where is she going to go. But other than that, a quick take a look at the Atlantic. I do want to mention one thing. There is a lot of favorable conditions and just a lot of moist air, ahead of both of these tropical systems. So as these two systems make their way farther into the southwest Atlantic, I do want to note that there is very, very favorable environmental conditions for future development over the next couple of days. So that is a big thing that we need to watch out for. But another thing I do want to mention is behind all of this, we do have obviously some Saharan dust. So a lot of you probably saw that and said, well, why is that not going to weaken the storms? Well, all this Saharan dust is moving farther south. You can see on the satellite loop, it's moving towards this next tropical wave, which currently doesn't have any chance for development. But it's going to be cutting off all of the moisture that's going to be going back into the Atlantic. So anything past this line here is going to be safe to go right into the southwest Atlantic and potentially make some impacts towards the east coast. But everything behind that likely will have to deal with that Saharan dust. So we're going to be moving on here to the National Hurricane Center forecast homepage. You can see we have three things going on. One, we'll start out, we have post-tropical cyclone Gabrielle, which is currently still at around 70 miles per hour, so right around tropical storm to hurricane strength. It lacks some of the tropical characteristics needed for a tropical system, but it's still a post-tropical cyclone, and it is actually going towards Europe. And we actually do have even some hurricane warnings up for the Azores Islands as we get into tonight, as we are expecting significant hurricane force wind gusts throughout tonight across the islands. So if you are somehow watching this video under those hurricane warnings, please make sure that you are obviously staying safe throughout the rest of the night. And then as that system advances out to sea and eventually into Europe, make sure if you're watching from out there that you're also staying safe. The next two things we need to watch out for, we have Tropical Storm Humberto, which currently has 60 mile per hour sustained winds, minimum central pressure at around 1,000 millibars, and movement is at 6 miles per hour northwest, so it is moving very, very slowly. But the latest from the National Hurricane Center is that Humberto continues to strengthen over the central Atlantic and is expected to become a hurricane on Friday. Alright, so we'll get into the specifics with that. And then finally, the main attraction here, we have Disturbance 1, which is also named Invest 94L, and that is expected to become a tropical depression, eventually a tropical storm, via the National Hurricane Center. So what they're saying is that showers and thunderstorms are showing signs of organization in association with a tropical wave located near Hispaniola and the Turks and Caicos Islands. An area of low pressure is expected to form along the wave tonight or early Friday when it moves near the southeast Bahamas. This low is expected to become a tropical depression when it is in the vicinity of the central and northwest Bahamas late Friday or over the weekend, and then track northwestward or northwest over the southwest Atlantic. So basically what they're saying here is that This storm is expected to, or at least this tropical wave, is expected to organize and develop a surface low, which will eventually develop into a tropical depression, likely as we get into tomorrow over the next couple of days. But another interesting thing that they're saying is that significant uncertainty in the long-range track and intensity of the system, it is there, but the chances of wind, rainfall, and storm surge impacts for a portion of the southeast U.S. coast are increasing. So interest in that area should monitor the progress of the system. So they are saying that everyone along the southeast coastline needs to be watching this, and rightfully so, because the models have really picked up on a concerning signal. But your formation chances throughout the next 48 hours are high at 80%, and the next 7 days are high at 90%. By the time you're watching this video, this quite literally could be a tropical depression already, but if not, it will likely have a near 100% chance of developing. So we zoom in here and take a look at Tropical Storm Humberto, which we mentioned a little bit earlier in the video. You can see it's popping off some really significant convection. You can see a lot of those pinks and even purples showing up around the center of the circulation. This is what, we look for when we're talking about strengthening systems. We can see some outer bands starting to develop. Okay, no Hurricane I developing yet. Obviously, this is still a tropical system or tropical storm. But this will likely strengthen into a hurricane over the next couple of days and eventually will become a major hurricane. Alright, but this is a very organized system, very healthy system. Again, you can see literally no wind shear that's affecting the system, so it's going to continue to move north into even more favorable waters over the next couple of days, and it will really start to strengthen as it, again, continues to move farther up into the southwest Atlantic. Alright, so the forecast path for Tropical Storm Humberto, again, you can see it is expected to continue to move west-northwest generally over the next couple of days, and really by the time you guys are watching this video, this will likely already be a hurricane, but as of right now, again, it is a high-end tropical storm, and it will continue to be a hurricane as we get into the last couple of days of this week, and as we get into around 2 a.m. Sunday, we are expecting Humberto to become a major hurricane, again, as it moves farther into the southwest Atlantic, and you can see by around Monday afternoon, we are expected to see Humberto become once again a Category 3 hurricane. So major hurricane status is expected to be reached right around 2 a.m. Sunday and continue throughout the rest of Monday, and that will eventually bring the system to the north, because usually what we see is that stronger tropical systems like to gain latitude or move north whenever they strengthen. So as a result, we do see that recurve to the north, and so far we have no places or any pieces of land in the path of Tropical Storm Humberto, but it is very, very close to Bermuda as well as the southeast coast. So even though the models do predict the storm to go completely out to sea, we still can't completely let our guard down, because things can happen really quick. Excuse me. And so, even though this is expected to curve out to sea, we still need to make sure that everyone is keeping a close eye on this system. Then we move on here to Invest 94L, which is going to be catching the headlines here. This is what's going to be future tropical storm and Hurricane Imelda. Excuse me. But you can see it is popping off quite a bit of convection, as it pretty much just sits right around the Dominican Republic and Haiti here. But you can see also some very, very deep pockets of convection, seeing those grays, those blacks, and even those pinks at times. So this is a very strong tropical wave, if you will. Again, this is an invest, so they are investigating the system. But this will likely strengthen into a tropical depression over the next couple of hours, and eventually a tropical storm and a hurricane. And so that's going to bring us over to the GFS model. We're going to be comparing the GFS, the European, and the HWRF hurricane model. All for the, just basically what they're showing for the next couple of days, as far as how strong Imelda or future Imelda could get and where she could go. Alright, but we take a look at the latest GFS. This is the 18Z. You can see that Invest 94L is down here again, moving up towards the Bahamas. And then you also do have Hurricane, at this point, Hurricane Humberto, that is creeping up through the bottom right-hand side of your screen as a very strong hurricane. And you can see as we're getting into Friday and eventually into our weekend, we do see both Imelda at this point and Humberto continue to move towards the southeastern United States, and Imelda continues to move a little bit farther north, again staying pretty weak at this point, nothing too crazy with development, right around 995 millibars, so pretty slow and gradual development. And we do not see that low pressure signature on the GFS, and I think that is just a glitch from the Tropical Tidbits website. Usually with the storm of this strength, you will get that low pressure signature, but we don't get the exact number as far as millibars, so we don't really know how strong the system would be. But based off of what we see here, the GFS does bring what will likely be a tropical storm or a hurricane into the southeastern United States. We can take a little bit of a closer look here. And you can see it does actually make a landfall right in between South Carolina and North Carolina as we get into Monday night and into Tuesday morning. So overnight Monday into Tuesday, we do see Imelda make a direct landfall on the southeast Carolina coastline. It continues to move inland, still at 994 millibars, way past landfall. So you got to think that at this point it's probably around a Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane at the time of landfall, and then again continues to drop a lot of rain and produce very, very gusty winds over the Appalachian Mountain region, and eventually kind of fizzles out across the southeast. But we cannot stop there with the GFS. We also have to take a look at what it wants Humberto to do over the next couple of days, and you can see it does take that similar track, again pretty much in line with what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. Again, here's Bermuda, and this seems to be what the general track of Humberto is based off of the GFS, and you can see it does make that very sharp curve out to sea. Does not quite do the Fujiwara effect with Imelda, but it does get very, very close, but it does not get sucked up into the circulation and does actually make that curve out to sea, but becomes a very, very strong major hurricane getting down into the 950s, and eventually you do get a trough to swing by and helps yank it and pull it out to sea. Excuse me. Alright, so that is the latest outlook from the GFS. Now we compare this to the European model. This is the 12Z European. And so we take a look at what the Euro wants. And the Euro also does have a similar track here. It does show Imelda becoming likely a tropical depression or tropical storm as we get into tomorrow, right around 1,001 millibars. And that same glitch, that same darn glitch happens on Tropical Tidbits with this. But it does look to be pretty strong here, likely a tropical storm or a Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane. Again, just based off of what we're seeing precipitation-wise with our isobars very tight, wrapping around the center of circulation. And it does also make a landfall right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina, again, likely as a Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane. And then it does make its way inland and almost stalls out, which would cause really, really big problems for the Carolinas, because again, this is an area that was impacted very heavily by Helene, and they are still not even close to completely done with the rebuild from Helene. Obviously, we saw very, very hard hit communities, and I want to make myself clear, I am not saying in the least that this storm is going to be nearly as bad as Hurricane Helene. I can guarantee you that is not going to happen. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to really watch out for this one, because it could be dropping a lot of rain over areas that are still not close to being done with the cleanup and recovery from Hurricane Helene, which is obviously catastrophic and record-breaking with all that rainfall and flooding. Excuse me. Alright, so that is the outlook from the European model on future Hurricane Imelda, and we take a look at also what it wants to do with Humberto, and it also does have Humberto strengthening a lot, already down to 945 millibars, very close to Bermuda, but this is pretty much an identical run to the GFS, so very good model agreement with this. Okay, it does have a very strong major hurricane getting very close to going through the Fujiwara effect with Imelda, but the timing is not quite there, and eventually it gets yanked out to sea by that trough just in time to save the East Coast. Because again, if that trough weren't there, if this area of blue wasn't there, then this storm would also be able to go into the south, into the northeast coastline, or be able to go right out to sea. So obviously, we're very, very happy about that, and that we're able to see a likely miss from a almost disaster here. I mean, again, this is a very, very strong, likely Cat 4, Cat 5 scenario on the European model, but Humberto will likely be going out to sea. And now we take a look at the HWRF hurricane model. This is one of the more trustworthy hurricane models that we do see here, and we can take a look at its latest model output here and projection for future Imelda, and you can see it wants already by 2 p.m. Really Sunday, it wants Imelda to be down to 986 millibars after taking some time to get out of the Bahamas. So this is likely a very strong tropical storm. Or a very, very weak Category 1 hurricane, and it continues to gradually move to the north, again strengthening here, already down to 981 millibars, so likely a Cat 1 hurricane at this point, and then it goes under some pretty intense strengthening here, and it does eventually get itself down to about 975 millibars. It does develop a pretty nice core and possibly even an eye there off of the HWRF, and it really lashes the Carolina coastline. Again, I do want to mention also these outer bands. This would be a huge tornado producer. Again, you see these areas of pinks and these reds. This is where we're talking about the potential for waterspouts, spin-up tornadoes, tornadoes on land, obviously very large tornadoes, but also just very, very heavy rain. So this would be a very, very big problem for the Carolina coastline, and that western eye wall and outer core would be devastating here for the Carolinas, because this would cause big-time flooding. Again, you're seeing almost never-ending rain, and if this were to slow down and almost stall out over the Carolinas, we would have big problems. But as we get into Tuesday, it does actually slow down, and it continues to bring very heavy rain into the interior Carolinas as well as into southern Virginia. So another area that we need to start talking about here, and it even stays at around 985 millibars well after landfall. So we could be talking about Imelda as a named storm for quite a while, even after this supposedly makes a landfall. So that's the latest projection from the HWRF. Pretty aggressive model run here. This would be likely one of the more worst case scenarios. But I do want to go quickly back to the European model, which hopefully we can do that. Let me figure this out. Okay, so we go back to the European model, and I do want to show you guys what the Euro had yesterday. So this is right around when everyone started to kind of figure out the latest model trend. The Euro was being very, very aggressive, pretty close to being in line with the HWRF, but it does also have that glitch on tropical tidbits. But it seems to have Imelda becoming a very strong hurricane, not even, just a Cat 1, Cat 2, but potentially even a major hurricane, and the run does end as it is just south of the Outer Banks. But if this were to happen, again, where the storm slows down over the Bahamas and really just doesn't gain speed as it moves to the north, if it stays over open water for long enough, we could be talking about a much stronger hurricane. And I'm not going to rule out the chance of seeing a major hurricane, but I will say that obviously a major hurricane landfall is very, very low at this time. So, now that we've got our strength projections under control here, we want to take a look now at the GFS and European ensembles to take a look at our spaghetti plots here and see where the ensembles do have this storm going. So we start out here first with the GFS ensemble. We'll take a look at both Humberto and Imelda, but we'll start out with Humberto, and you can see we're still talking about what looks to be more or less a windshield wiper effect, where we're not seeing a completely, perfect and inline forecast. We're seeing many different members taking this either a little bit farther out to sea and closer towards Bermuda, but there are still quite a few that bring this a little bit farther towards the southeast coastline and towards Imelda, where we might see more impacts, obviously, towards the east coast due to rip currents and very rough seas. But most of these tracks, obviously, are very, very strong. A lot of low pressure signatures here below 980 millibars. So again, a pretty wide signal here for a very, very strong hurricane over the next couple of days. But for the most part, the ensemble mean does have this recurve occurring right around Sunday into Monday as we get again into our early days of next week. But we move things over to Imelda, and you can see obviously a very strong signal for that as well. And literally almost none of the ensemble members do bring this out to sea. They all have this going into the southeast coastline, specifically the Carolina coastline. Now that specific landfall location is still not yet agreed on. There are a lot of members that take this closer to Florida and have this going into South Carolina, but there are quite a few that also take this into North Carolina. So just because we know or we're confident in that this storm is going to be making a landfall somewhere in the southeast coastline doesn't mean we can say for sure that it's going to make a landfall in North Carolina. So it could still go a little bit closer towards Georgia and South Carolina, or it could be a little bit further north towards maybe the Outer Banks. Alright, so a lot is left to be figured out, and we will likely still see that windshield wiper effect continue as we get into the next couple of days. But we move on here to the European ensemble. I think I said that we were looking at the European ensemble a couple minutes ago. That was the GFS ensemble. This is the European ensemble, which you're probably going to be concerned about this one because we do have a lot of tracks on this one. We look at first the single for Humberto. There are a lot more members. There are 51 members, and at this point it looks pretty certain that all the 51 members have a signal for Humberto becoming a major hurricane. You can see literally every single track here is highlighted in pink, which usually means that we are seeing a signal for a major hurricane. But there are quite a few tracks that make this sub 940 millibars, which would likely bring this into Cat 4, Cat 3 to Cat 5 range. Alright, so really, really aggressive signature there from the European ensemble. Again, we just looked at the GFS. This is the European, so apologize for the confusion. But Bermuda is somewhere on this map. I'm going to be honest, I don't see Bermuda, so a lot of these tracks have future, or at this point, Tropical Storm Humberto going over Bermuda. So this is a big reason why, just because the National Hurricane Center doesn't have Bermuda in their cone of uncertainty, does not mean that we cannot rule out impacts, because when you see a signal like this where we see a very early curve out to sea towards Bermuda, that's something that we cannot ignore. Alright, so this is a very, very concerning run here and output from the European ensemble, but we shift things over to Imelda, and we see also a very strong signal from the European ensemble, where we see many members showing Imelda becoming a strong tropical storm, or even a Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane. A couple of these low pressure signatures have this getting sub 985 millibars, which again is a pretty strong signal. But once again, a lot of them take this into the southeast coastline. Most of them take this into the Carolina coast. But again, there's still disagreement on the exact position of where that landfall is going to be. Yes, it could be anywhere from Georgia up to South Carolina, but also there's quite a few that take this into North Carolina. All right, so there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of kind of disagreement there on the exact position of landfall, but it's very, very likely that we will at least see some direct impacts to the southeast coastline from Hurricane Imelda. But now we take a look at our PWA anomalies. So basically this is going to give us an idea of how saturated the air and atmosphere is, and how much rain it could produce. And so, really where you see the more damp colors here in these greens, these whites, and these, especially these blues and these purples, this is where we're talking about very, very high PWAT values. So basically that just means we're talking about very moist conditions and favorable conditions for rainfall. So this is the latest output from the European model. Notice how we have already in front of Imelda, which hasn't even popped up on your screen yet, a huge moisture return, and moisture pull with a lot of tropical moisture coming up from the Atlantic, surging into the southeastern United States, and that pushes a lot of dry air to the south, away from where Imelda is going to be making landfall. So this can act as a shield for tropical systems, where we just get all this tropical moisture pushed up into the eastern United States, and we see all of the unfavorable and dry air get pushed away from where Imelda will be making landfall, and that's what's going to happen in this case. And what we see on the rest of the run here is that big trail or return of moisture continues, and we get a second round and a much bigger round as the center of circulation of Imelda makes landfall here, and we can sort of see the millibar pressure again on the outer core. We already have 996 millibars, so kind of gives us an idea of how strong the run actually had Imelda getting. But anyways, you can see that as Imelda makes landfall, we just had this huge field of very, very high PWAP values, very saturated conditions, and that is going to fuel Imelda and allow her to continue to stay at near tropical storm strength even after she makes landfall. And I think that's the big reason why we saw the GFS and the European model and really the HWRF all agreeing that Imelda will likely slow down as she moves over land, but also will maintain tropical storm strength most likely. And you can see exactly that happening here. And then eventually that big-time cold front suppresses the moisture and makes Imelda fizzle out. But that is a very impressive model run, and that's going to be kind of showing us how things are going to be working with Imelda, and that will allow for Imelda to take advantage of the environment and just make her way into land rather than going out to sea. And so, as we take a look here now at the Weather Prediction Center's official 7-day precipitation outlook, this is going to kind of reflect what information we just looked at previously with our very high PWAT values. And this is pretty concerning. Over that exact same area, we have a huge and very broad signal of likely 2 to 4 inches of rain across anywhere from the Delmarva region all the way down through the southeast United States. So this is a very, very concerning signal when you're talking about a huge stretch of land seeing likely 2 to 4 inches of rain. But you can see even where Imelda is expected to make landfall, the Weather Prediction Center does have a signal for potentially anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of rainfall, and that will be including states like Southern Virginia, all of North Carolina, as well as coastal regions of South Carolina. So very, very concerning signal there for rainfall from Imelda. And again, like I said earlier, if this does slow down and continues to pour and pour over portions of North Carolina, you gotta remember some of these communities were hit very, very hard by Helene last year and are still cleaning up. So when you're talking about, again, lots of rainfall coming down at once and not really slowing down or stopping for a couple of days, then you're going to be talking about some pretty serious problems. But again, a huge area is expected to see at least an inch or so of rainfall from Imelda, and again, this could change, but definitely not the outlook that you are looking forward to seeing here from the Weather Prediction Center. Alright, but we move on here, taking a look at your sea surface temperatures. This is going to go into, again, what's going to be fueling Imelda to strengthen, and just, keeping an eye on where our waters are at in Celsius. You could still see that the Southwest Atlantic is still very, very warm, again, with many sea surface temperatures well above 80 degrees, which is considered very favorable for supporting even a major hurricane. We saw exactly that with Erin, and these waters are not too cooler than where they were at with Erin. And you can see where Invest 94L currently is spinning. Sea surface temperatures are approaching 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So pretty extreme SSTs here in the Southwest Atlantic, and this is basically just going to continue to help and fuel and just aid the intensification process from, again, tropical storm and future Hurricane Imelda. But the latest GFS for the last part of the update with our 500 millibar height anomalies giving us an idea of where our low pressure and high pressure is. This is basically give us an idea of what's stirring Imelda. You can see that we will likely get a small trough to dig down into the southeastern United States, and that will help bring Imelda to the north And the reason why it's not going to be going out to sea and ignoring this trough is because you have high pressure ridging that is building over Bermuda, and it is basically acting as a defense mechanism and pushing any tropical system or low pressure center away from where you see these warmer colors. So here is Imelda down here in the southwest Atlantic. What is happening here is that we get this trough to dig down into the southeastern United States, and that kind of picks up and scoops up Imelda, allowing it to kind of get funneled up into the southeast coastline, while this high pressure system is keeping everything away from going out to sea and into the central Atlantic. So that's basically how things are going to be working here, and that's exactly what we see. We see that high pressure ridging really strengthen over the central Atlantic as well as the northern United States. We see that trough pick up Imelda and put it right into the southeast coastline, where again we see two high pressure systems blocking Imelda from going out to sea and going into other directions. But you may be wondering also, then why isn't Humberto doing the same thing, just trucking right into the East Coast? Well, because Humberto is so strong, he's actually going to be able to fight off that high pressure and make that recurve out to sea, and we likely will see another trough dig down from the north, which will be able to also help pick up Humberto and eventually throw it out to sea. And there you go here. You see those very deeper blue colors with that ridging kind of backing off, allowing for Humberto to go out to sea. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I apologize for the lack of, quality commentation. I'm still battling the sinus infection. It is getting better, but so hopefully there'll be limited coughing and sneezing during my updates. But make sure that you do hit that like and subscribe button, as well as consider donating to the PayPal. We will likely, or I will likely, try to do live hurricane coverage if this does end up making landfall, which it likely will. So make sure you catch me live with all notifications turned on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.